Longwood Gardens, the world's premier horticultural display. Breathtaking vistas of trees and flowers of every description blend with the brilliant presence of unique and fascinating water features. Through the seasons, Longwood offers the visitor countless rewarding and memorable experiences. A tradition of excellence has grown over 100 years of innovation and commitment to the art and science of horticulture. Today, Longwood Gardens stands as a tribute to the people and events that shaped a century of gardening brilliance. Longwood Gardens is here for all to enjoy, thanks to the vision and determination of one person, Pierre Samuel DuPont. A remarkably able yet modest man, his achievements as head of two of America's most prosperous corporations, the DuPont Company and General Motors, are unprecedented. He would later wonder how he managed to attain such success.
What am I? Is a man's life a record of his own accomplishments and mistakes, or is it a mere chronicle of inheritance and chance occurrences, little affected by the individual will?
Pierre DuPont made his own destiny. But as in all our lives, chance played a major role in the direction his life would take, in both his professional and his personal life. Born in 1870, the eldest son of Lamont DuPont, a successful chemist, and Mary Belin DuPont, mother of 11 children, Pierre remembered his childhood at the family home, Nemours, in relatively modest terms.
Our household was of a kind that belonged to what then might have been classed as respectable gentility. Not rich, but comfortable without financial embarrassment.
Pierre's great-grandfather, Eleuther Irénée DuPont, emigrated from France in 1800 to escape political persecution. He founded the E.I. DuPont de Nemours Powder Company near Wilmington, Delaware. He also began a tradition of gardening in the DuPont family that would become an important part of Pierre's life. At the age of 9, on a street in Philadelphia, Pierre's chance discovery of a private greenhouse placed where it could be seen by all passers-by had a lasting effect.
I made an inward resolve that if ever I built a greenhouse, it would be kept open to public view from within as well as from without.
At the age of 14, chance played a tragic role in Pierre's life when his father died in a chemical explosion. Pierre assumed family responsibilities far beyond his age, taking on the role of father to his brothers and sisters. Pierre's path to success was relatively direct. He graduated from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology when he was just 20. By 23, he had been issued a patent as co-inventor of smokeless gunpowder, and by 33, had already become president or director of numerous companies. Pierre remained head of the family, and at his mother's new home, St. Amour in Wilmington, Delaware, his enthusiasm for gardening grew. He was so disappointed with the work of a landscape contractor that he decided to plant future gardens himself. Another chance occurrence changed the direction of Pierre's life when he discovered that historic Pierce's Park, on an original land grant from William Penn, housing an arboretum of unusual trees, many dating back to 1800, was about to be destroyed. To save the trees, on July 20th, 1906, Pierre bought Pierce's Park, soon to be known as Longwood Gardens. The purchase included 202 acres, a house, and farm buildings for $15,500. Having often proclaimed real estate to be a poor investment, Pierre wrote to a close friend,
I have recently experienced what I would formerly have diagnosed as an attack of insanity. That is, I have purchased a small farm about 10 miles from Wilmington. However, I believe the purchase worth the risk, for my farm is a very pretty place, and I expect to have a good deal of enjoyment in restoring its former condition and making it a place where I can entertain my friends.
In 1907, he laid out Longwood's first flower garden, the 600-foot-long Flower Garden Walk.
It is to be on the old-fashioned plan of straight walks and box borders at the edge of the flower beds. I have in the center of my garden a pool 20 feet in diameter and a fountain. So far, considerable progress has been made, and I have set myself and guests to work planting flower seeds whenever I have the opportunity.
With the death of his beloved mother, Mary, in 1913, he turned his attention more toward his gardens. Pierre decided to enlarge his weekend residence, the modest Pierce family house, originally built in 1730. His plans called for Longwood's first conservatory to connect the original house with a matching addition containing expanded living quarters. Like Thomas Jefferson's Monticello, Pierre's addition was filled with innovations, including sliding windows for the conservatory that could be lowered to the basement for storage. The house became a home when, in 1915, Pierre married Alice Beelan. Alice shared Pierre's love of horticulture and travel. She became Pierre's confidant and the grand lady of Longwood. They began an ambitious program of improvements and expansion, building the massive conservatory, numerous greenhouses, and tenant housing and recreational facilities for their expanding staff. But Pierre never forgot why he had originally bought Pierce's Park: to save the trees.
No tree, dead or alive, is to be removed or trimmed unless by special permission of the owner. The preservation and care of trees is considered of first importance, as their injury is irreparable, while time or money, or both, will rectify most other mistakes.
Over the years, he added thousands of trees to the original Pierce collection. And there were many projects at Longwood that reflected his childhood fascination with water.
As a child, I was always delighted to behold flowing water, and I confess to still feel a thrill at the sight of clear water running freely from a faucet.
His first fountain had a single spout, but he would build some of the most ambitious and spectacular water displays ever created. Pierre began the Italian water garden in 1925, inspired by a garden he had seen near Florence, Italy. He personally designed the entire garden and made all the hydraulic calculations. When Pierre enlarged the open-air theater in 1926, he installed elaborate illuminated fountains with a full water curtain for the stage and a control panel that made each show a one-of-a-kind experience. The culmination of his fascination with water came in 1931, when the main fountain garden was inaugurated. Hundreds of jets shoot as high as 130 feet, ejecting 10,000 gallons of water each minute. At night, they are lit by nearly 700 colored lights. Through the years, Pierre Dupont's fountains have brought millions of visitors to marvel at these unique displays. Pierre never lost sight of his plan to make Longwood Gardens a place where he could entertain his friends, such as John Philip Sousa. He held his first garden party in 1909. It was so successful that his party became the most anticipated event of the summer social season. Each Christmas, Pierre and Alice held a party in the conservatory for the staff and their families, personally handing out the presents. Each summer, Longwood would be home to their many nieces and nephews. One of them recalled, "There was always a twinkle in Uncle Pierre's eye, and there was always a double twinkle in his eye when he was in the presence of kids." The garden was a world of adventure for the children, and Uncle Pierre would often join in. Grown-up kids also found Longwood Gardens an irresistible place to play. Through these years of growth and activity, Pierre was able to guide both DuPont and General Motors to the top of the business world. He also managed to find time to help support the local community. Pierre financed construction of local hospitals, and although he had no children of his own, He gave millions of his personal fortune to the local school systems. He proved to be a very good neighbor as well as friend. By the late 1930s, his Longwood Gardens was essentially complete. Pierre continued to give Longwood his close personal attention, and for a while, there was time to enjoy the fruits of his labor. But in 1944, Alice died after a short illness. Pierre turned his efforts to ensuring that Longwood Gardens and its employees would have a productive and certain future. Although business interests kept him away for extended periods, he still managed a few quiet moments in his precious gardens.
In these days, my part of the work is small, but I am happy to keep the place going.
On April 2nd, 1954, Pierre was recognized for his lifetime of accomplishments, receiving a Legion of Honor from the French government. 3 days later, Pierre Samuel DuPont died. These lovely gardens provided Mr. DuPont with nearly a half-century of challenge and pleasure. To secure Longwood's future, Mr. DuPont left a sizable endowment. In 1955, the trustees realized that the task of transforming his private estate into a world-class horticultural display would take a monumental effort. They began by selecting Dr. Russell Seibert as Longwood's first director. Working together, they began to expand and improve the existing buildings and facilities. They first converted many of Mr. DuPont's personal vegetable and fruit greenhouses to floral displays. A visitor orientation center was opened in 1956, offering the garden's first publications. Visitors from around the world came to Longwood in ever-increasing numbers. The Desert House was added in 1957, along with a 13-pond water lily display featuring huge water platters. The original display was designed by well-known water lily authority George Pring, who was Russell Seibert's father-in-law. An advisory committee of family members was formed in 1958 to pursue Mr. DuPont's aesthetic goals. Working with Director Seibert, they began to implement a master plan that evolved over 30 years into a stated mission. Longwood Gardens is dedicated to preserving the spirit and beauty of the early 20th century gardens of Pierre S. DuPont. Longwood is a display garden, promoting the art and enjoyment of horticulture for the public while providing opportunities for research and learning. Longwood Gardens research efforts began immediately. Every plant was inventoried and labeled. From the 3,000 types of plants that were in Mr. DuPont's gardens, the collection grew to more than 11,000. Countless new varieties were studied. Experimental greenhouses were built in 1958. In 1960, Longwood Gardens began a plant breeding program. Innovative propagation methods and improved cultural techniques greatly improved the garden's displays. Since 1956, teams have carried out 54 plant expeditions to 50 countries. New plants were discovered in Korea, China, and Japan, in India, Tibet, and Nepal. 13,000 plant varieties have been acquired and studied. Many new plants have been introduced to the public, such as the popular New Guinea impatiens. To meet Mr. DuPont's goal to establish a school where students and others may receive instruction in the arts of horticulture and floriculture, a major focus on education began in 1955 with a series of public lectures. Joined by public demonstrations, these became some of the most popular programs at Longwood. A cooperative summer student program was initiated in 1958, followed by the graduate and professional gardener training programs.
All your colors do not have to be in flowers.
Continuing education programs now provide classes in everything from basic gardening to advanced floral and landscape design.
If it spreads not only by
Students
seed,
from around the world join students from across the nation in programs ranging from internships to 2-year professional gardener training to a master's degree program in association with the University of Delaware. What they learn will influence horticulture in America and abroad. Longwood Gardens has continued to expand to meet the growing attendance. A highway overpass was constructed in 1962, and the visitor center was relocated and enlarged with a garden shop, auditorium, and a 1,000-car parking lot. In 1979, the center was expanded and modernized even more. One of the most significant changes was to replace the aging 1928 azalea house with the huge East Conservatory. Opened in 1973, it greatly improved indoor display facilities. In 1983, a 400-seat restaurant was opened. Since then, the principal effort has been to renovate and adapt existing space to improve the visitor experience. The 1925 Italian Water Garden was completely renovated in 1992. 4 years later, the Orangery and Exhibition Hall were restored and reopened. A 62-bell carillon was added to the Chimes Tower in 2001. More restoration and improvements are in store over the coming years. The East Conservatory, ballroom, and music room have undergone extensive renovation. These efforts have one purpose: to make the horticultural displays at Longwood Gardens a memorable and moving experience. To assist the staff and the advisory committee, experienced garden advisors and professionals have been brought in as consultants, including renowned landscape architect Thomas Church, who designed the theater garden in 1975, and a year later, the Peony and Wisteria Gardens, replacing gardens dating to 1908. Temporary exhibits in the indoor example gardens and more permanent displays in the outdoor idea garden became canvases for creative designs, using a palette of plants and structures to interpret changing seasons and themes. Cymbidium orchid displays began indoors in 1964. 5 years later, outdoors, the meadow was enhanced. In 1983, the permanent orchid display, one of Longwood's most popular spots, was enlarged. The collection of 7,500 plants includes more than 3,200 different types obtained from sources worldwide. For the young visitors, the indoor children's garden, offering hours of enjoyment, opened in 1987. It was improved in 1990 and has been totally redesigned and expanded to reopen in 2007. Consulting landscape architects and garden designers have elevated the quality of the horticultural displays. In 1989, the celebrated English landscape architect Sir Peter Shepherd upgraded and enhanced the existing water lily ponds to hold more than 100 types of day and night blooming aquatics. That same year, noted California designer Isabel Green envisioned the extraordinary Silver Garden as a dry desert stream bed, bordered with thousands of blue, gray, and silver specimens. The famed Brazilian artist Roberto Burle Marx, Conrad Hammerman, and Longwood staff created the Cascade Garden, an artistic expression of the South American rainforest. Californian Ron Lutzko designed the Mediterranean Garden, representing 5 such regions around the world. With 4 acres of greenhouses and 1,050 acres of gardens, meadows, woodlands, and wetlands, the horticultural displays and facilities are constantly evolving with the help of 165 full-time and some 500 part-time employees, students, and volunteers. One recent addition is the Estate Fruit House, opened in 2003. Recalling Mr. DuPont's love for produce in all seasons, the show of blossoms in late winter and fruit-laden trees in early summer provide glorious sights for the visitor. To augment the plants and trees, Longwood staff saw as a natural outgrowth of Pierre DuPont's interests the goal to entertain all who come here. Performances at the open-air theater occur several times a week during the warm weather months. Throughout the gardens, hundreds of performance events are scheduled annually. They range from concerts and dance performances to folk and world music and full theatrical productions.
Seems to me, sir, such as she's a judge is he, sir, and a good judge too.
In 1995, the original Pierce DuPont house was opened as a museum.
I have purchased a small farm about 10 miles from Wilmington.
The Heritage exhibit documents the story of Pierre DuPont and his gardens.
Their beauty is irreparable, while time or money are both.
To better interpret Longwood's magnificent Aeolian organ in the ballroom, a new viewing area offers a look at many of its 10,010 pipes, while hands-on exhibits explain how the instrument works. Regularly scheduled public fountain displays began in 1956. In 1980, music was added to the weekly evening fountain displays of water and light. That same year, fireworks were added to produce a magnificent spectacle. As many as 6,000 visitors now attend these grand shows, held several times each summer. The seasons offer a variety of memorable experiences all year long. In late winter, Welcome Spring is a breathtaking indoor display of some 5,500 types of plants, providing a perpetual spring from January through April. The orangery is filled with ever-blooming flower beds bordered by manicured lawns, consistent with Pierre DuPont's concept of Longwood as a year-round garden paradise. Outdoors, spring virtually explodes with a myriad of colors across acres of flowering bulbs, shrubs, and trees. Some 100,000 tulips and hyacinths fill the flower garden walk in late April and early May. In summer, the Festival of Fountains adds a new dimension to the garden. The open-air theater fountains perform to well-known music, and the Italian water garden is a continuous joy. The main fountain garden erupts regularly. Other smaller fountains provide moments of quiet reflection for visitors to discover as they tour some 20 outdoor garden areas. Children are always included in the seasonal fun. Early Fall's Garden Fest is a special time for youngsters of all ages who come to enjoy a marvelous garden railway. Fall brings nature's palette of color to Longwood Gardens with its grand diversity of trees. Original trees, saved by Pierre DuPont in 1906, combine with thousands of others that have been added throughout the landscape to paint a glorious picture. Each year in late fall, visitors come to the month-long Chrysanthemum Festival to view the indoor display of 20,000 mums of many shapes and shades of harvest colors. Continuous weekend performances and entertainment help celebrate the long heritage of the chrysanthemum. Floral displays with huge cascades and 5-foot diameter globes astound the garden enthusiasts. Chrysanthemums have been a fall favorite since the days when Mr. and Mrs. DuPont walked these grounds. Christmas is a fitting finale to a year of non-stop gardening. Longwood's holiday display attracts more than 200,000 visitors annually. They delight in an overwhelming celebration of thousands of poinsettias, elaborately decorated trees, and fragrant flowers. Outdoors, colored fountains dance to holiday music, surrounded by 400,000 lights twinkling in the trees. Seasonal tunes played on the carillon, performed on the grand pipe organ, and sung by local carolers complete the horticultural celebration. Longwood's commitment to preserve the past while building the future captures the spirit and vision of Pierre DuPont, who combined horticulture, architecture, theater, and music into a unique garden experience. Mr. DuPont's legacy has been in the capable hands of only 3 directors over the past 5 decades. The original director, Russell Seibert, was succeeded by Everett Miller in 1979. Fred Roberts replaced Miller in 1984 and continued into the centennial year. With their guidance, Longwood Gardens' tradition of excellence has grown to bring the art and science of horticulture for public enjoyment to unparalleled heights. Under the leadership of Fred Roberts, Longwood has developed a planning vision that is a dynamic guide and blueprint for a fiscally responsible future. The planning vision includes a long-term commitment to the environment and surrounding community. Innovative environmental stewardship principles guide Longwood Gardens' relationship with the land and the ecology of the region. A long-standing involvement with the community continues, from volunteering at the firehouse and aiding local government to opening its facilities for charitable events. On 700 acres of land surrounding 350 acres of public space, Longwood works to preserve the 19th century agricultural vistas and protect the wildlife that comes here for refuge. Everyone connected with Longwood Gardens is committed to making a visit here an unforgettable experience. The legacy begun by Pierre DuPont more than a century ago will guide Longwood as it continues to set new standards of excellence for the next 100 years and beyond.